This week's guest has a story of resilience and reinvention. After overcoming a cancer diagnosis, she discovered freedom and purpose on the open road, living full time in her RV. Today, she's a certified RV inspector and technician, helping others keep their rigs rolling while embracing life to the fullest. Stay tuned to hear her story. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm Brooks. Based in the Pacific Northwest, my family of four hits the road to explore the best of RV life out west. From hidden gems and epic destinations to helpful tips and real road stories. So grab your coffee and join the journey. The amazing martial artist and actor who left this world too early, Bruce Lee, once said, "Be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, and it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend." Our guest today, Carrie, shares her story of how she overcame adversity, not only why she's chosen to live the RV life, but more importantly, how the RV life has unexpectedly had such a huge impact on her life. And now she is choosing to live her life on her terms. She is a published author, a certified RV technician and inspector, and lives in her RV full time, traveling all around the United States. Carrie has work camped in Oregon, and she is also going to share with us all about her time exploring and adventuring around the Pacific Northwest. Carrie, welcome to RV Out West, and thank you so much for chatting and sharing with us your story.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, let's start first a little bit because I just always love kind of getting the origin stories. Can you share your journey into the RV life?
Well, it was kind of out of necessity, kind of like so many people. I had found a couple of tumors. And so I was going for biopsies and that sort of thing. And when I came back to the place where I was living, which was with what I would assume would have been my best friend of like 20 years, I found an eviction letter that said, that this was stressing her out and she couldn't help me if I was going to be sick or something of that nature. And so I was kind of, that activated the inner hillbilly in me because I'm from Oklahoma and in the Irish. So I was kind of spitting mad and I was like, well, hold my beer, watch this kind of a thing. And so I went and bought a tiny RV, like a trailer out of someone's backyard that they had used to haul dogs in. And sold some of my stuff, put the rest in storage, and I was looking at the Tetons in 2 weeks after that.
And time frame wise, kind of what year was that went down?
2021.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah. But it was kind of one of the best things that ever happened, and I actually told her that out whenever I saw her again, and I kind of prefaced with, I really appreciate you not being a good friend because now I love my life. So I kinda needed that kick. It was a good kick in the pants, and it kinda got me going, on something that I probably would have always dreamed about, but with the health scare, which everything turned out to be fine, and then it was a violent shove forward, which I'm very grateful for now.
Had you been thinking about RVing kind of leading up to that, whether it was like weekend trips or were
Yeah.
you thinking full time?
Well,
What were your thoughts pre this cancer scare?
in a book that I wrote and published, systematically, I went from a six-bedroom house to like a two-bedroom apartment to then moving in with her and then living in her studio basement apartment. And so systematically, really, the universe was just kind of consolidating my life. And I just kept like cutting umbilical cords past, all the stuff and the things and whatever. And then the job that I was doing at the time, kind of a live-in for disabilities, kind of an independent house, but I was the what they called the weekend block. So I came in on like 7 in the morning, and then I left Sunday night at 11. And so I got my 40 hours in one weekend. So I had Monday through Friday off. And so that allotted me for I could take a small road trip, and then I could start car camping, and then I started, going a little bit further, and I really have always loved road trips and that sort of thing, but that really expanded because I had the time. It expanded that I wanna see more. It made it like I was hungry for it at then. And then this happened, and then, so that was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this."
Wow. What an incredible story. So what kind of rig are you full time on the road right now?
I am. Yes.
Okay. So what kind of rig are you calling home these days?
I now have a 35-foot tow behind travel trailer and my service truck. So that's what I have. And I actually had that small trailer that I bought out of the backyard in Kansas for 3 years of my travels. That was what I called home. And I completely gutted her and remodeled her, and that's kind of also what threw me. She was my greatest teacher. That trailer was. So she threw me also into because nothing worked on her. So, trying to find somebody to help me fix it. I didn't understand it. Now, I've done a lot of home remodeling stuff. I've done a lot of home construction and projects, but this is a completely different monster, when you start thinking about it, because I was in Oregon, actually, in LeGrand, Oregon, and, one of the guests had come by and he dropped his card and he said, "I'm an RV tech." And I was like, "That's a thing? Like, you just work on RVs?" And then he told me where he went to school to get his license, and again, I couldn't find anybody to help me fix it. One person told me to set it on fire and send it down the road, that it was unfixable, and so, again, I was like, "Well, watch me." And so I took myself to school, and then I started fixing her up. So, fixed her up, sold her for more money than I had in it, and then I bought this one so that I could kind of expand my living space.
We are going to get into the RV tech stuff here in just a minute, but before we do, I want to just kind of talk about the Pacific Northwest a little bit since we're a P&W show. What drew you kind of to the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I'm originally from Oklahoma, and so just the absolute need to see and the desire to see anything that was different than what I grew up with. So waterfalls, ocean, mountains, anything, redwoods, so I was going up through California and also chasing, nicer weather. So I was started out as a work camper. And I still work camp from time to time. If I'm in an area that I have good business in, I will go ahead and work camp there as well. So that kind of allots me to go to different places that I wouldn't normally go to. So my first work camping gig was in LeGrand, Oregon at Grand Hot Springs. And it's a big RV park there. And then they have a historic hotel. So I was able to, that was in Eastern Oregon. And so I was able to kind of go through the Columbia Gorge Highway. I was able to go to up to Tillamook, see the, seaside, Depot Bay, all the waterfalls, watch the whales at Depot Bay. I mean, all these firsts for me. Like that was the very first time, and I'm 40 some odd years old at this time. I've never seen a lighthouse before. It was just spectacular because I'm a flatlander. We don't have lighthouses in Oklahoma, so we don't have waterfalls.
I will share kind of opposite but similar. I did a stint in my life living out in the burbs of Philadelphia, and the first time I ever saw a firefly, I was 33 years old. I we don't have fireflies out here. I grew
Oh,
up out here, whatever, and I'm like, "What?" I had never experienced fireflies before, and I was like, "This is just cool." So,
isn't
very
that
similar but opposite
yeah.
kinda thing, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, I mean, I was just enthralled. It was like I'm just a giant child when I traveled to new places and, tide pools and, I mean, it was just amazing, and Oregon was very diverse. There's very different, environments there. You can go through John Day, it's a desert, and then you go to the seaside, and then you come up to La Grande and stuff, and it's like the rolling hills. And so it was very diverse. It was gorgeous. And then so I wanted more of that. So then I went up through Washington to experience more of that. So I kind of settled in Bellingham for a bit. But being able to see like the peninsula and the Hoh rainforest and all this stuff, it was just
Yeah.
it's pretty magical.
And Bellingham is a cool, big little city.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you had mentioned kind of the PNW having a really diverse terrain, and I think that's one of the things that definitely makes the Pacific Northwest so special and kind of almost an underrated RV destination. Is if you talk to people, hey, what would you want to see in the Northwest? And they just, right, the Mount Rainier, Olympic Peninsula, the North Cascades, Crater Lake. What is kind of your favorite from like the coast to the Cascades to the high desert has been your favorite type of environment that you've loved to travel through here in the Pacific Northwest?
Oh goodness. I mean, I stayed overnight at Sweet Home, and that was just something like it was in a um just a national forest, but that was just because it's so dense, it's so lush, with the ferns and the moss and the trees and all that stuff. It just looks like something out of Narnia. I mean, it's just almost storybook-esque, you know? Same with the Hoh rainforest. And so it was just beautiful. But being able to also go to Depot Bay and see the whales come in, the gray whales was absolutely magnificent. So, I haven't made my way to the East Coast yet, but I went back, and I don't go back to a state that I've already traveled in. Well, I went back to Oregon twice.
Yeah,
And
pretty
so
amazing.
I was in Crater Lake and I worked in Crater Lake. If you're a fan of snow, which I'm not, and I did not do my research very well on that, but I was surrounded by like 20-foot walls of snow because of the way that they have to kind of
Shovel.
shovel that out and stuff. But I was there for a small stint working at Crater Lake, and then I switched over to Estacado, and that was a cool little town, just,
Okay.
very quiet, very cool. I could ride my bike into town, get groceries. It was just awesome. There's so much. It's so diverse. I mean, everywhere I traveled, there was something cool. Klamath Falls. I mean, that was cool. There's eagles. You can see eagles all the time. It's just gorgeous.
What has been, then I'm going to say, I'm going to pinpoint you, share probably your top memorable moment in the Pacific Northwest.
I would have to it's either a cross between, the whales at Depot Bay, and that's where I saw, like, I think it was Newport, Seaside, like, there was a lot of firsts for me there. I ate clam
Okay.
chowder for the very first time, I saw a lighthouse for the very first time, tide pools, I got to experience those for the very first time, sea lions, waterfalls, the whales, but then it's also just a cross between that and then going up to Washington to the rainforest, and that was just like it was like being in Jurassic Park. It doesn't look like it's been touched, since it's just almost storybook. You could get lost in it, and it I don't think that anybody, like Jim Henson's Creature Shop couldn't recreate this
Uh-uh.
enough, you know what I mean?
And you
It's
know what's really interesting? There are only 5 temperate rainforests on our planet.
oh,
And one of those temperate rainforests are here in Washington state,
it was
which is the Olympic National Park.
yeah, it was just amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So both of those places are what stand out for me. They're kinda tied because they're
Okay.
both very diverse, but they were so over the top for me.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're going to pause here and hear a word from our sponsor and good friend at camperalerts.com. The seasons may have changed, but that doesn't make it any easier to find available campsites. Now, you can get notified of sold out campsites when they become available with Camper Alerts. Choose your campground, pick your RV specific filters, and set an alert. It's that simple. Visit camperalerts.com today and start setting your alerts. All right, welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are chatting with Carrie of GST RV about her travels around the Pacific Northwest, as well as we are now kind of going to get in and talk about her path as an RV tech. So, Carrie, can you kind of share with us? You'd kind of mentioned there in a little bit in the beginning, but what inspired you to pursue technical trade in the RV industry? And then what was that training process like? I'm really curious.
Well, it was basically, again, out of necessity. I couldn't find anybody to help me. I couldn't find anybody to explain anything about my RV. And YouTube was only goes so far, but I was going on YouTube and trying to figure out like how to make things work. And they were telling me to go to a control panel. And I had a 1984 tow behind. And I was like, I don't have a control panel. And what's labeled was labeled with those old 1980s, you know, click, click, how you have to press the letters in and that's the label maker. That was what it was labeled with. And so whenever I got the recommendation for an RV school, I kind of put it out of my mind because there was probably no way that I would be able to afford something like that or do something like that. I would have to say, unfortunately, the treatment that I got as a female asking for assistance, some of it, the answers that I got were pretty lewd and crude. I felt, people were making me feel stupid for what I hadn't learned yet. Groups, forums, Facebook groups were no help. They were like, well, if you don't know anything about an RV, why'd you buy it? And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because otherwise a consumer wouldn't buy anything because you don't know everything before you purchase something. So that was and it got to the point where it's frustrating. I was like, is this what women go through? Is this what females have to go through to just ask a question? And to get assistance. Somebody's not going to rip them off. Somebody's not going to make them feel stupid or inferior. And so finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I went and took myself it was in East Texas, the school was, and I became a registered technician. And then I stayed and became a certified technician. And then I stayed and became a solar technician and then a generator technician. And then I extended my stay again and became an inspector. And I wanted to make sure that I knew everything that I could know about an RV before I set out. Now that's kind of an oxymoron. You're never going to know everything because they change all the time, and you constantly learn. But I gave myself a good footing.
So I'm curious, you had kind of mentioned this, but as a woman in this field that's still probably primarily male dominated, you've mentioned challenges you have faced, but what advice would you have for other women who are looking to consider this path as a career?
Well, I will say that it's very challenging, especially as a female. So there's probably a handful of us. Now, I was in a group of, I was the 90th participant in this class, and I was the only female. So we broke off into groups of, I think, 13 or 15, depending on that. Now, the guys that I were with were my biggest cheerleaders, and they are also my biggest support system. But then there's other techs out there who can give you a hard time. So even your peers, you get that. Now, with customers, whenever they call me, a lot of times they think I'm just dispatch or the secretary, and I've gotten turned away when I show up because they didn't realize that it was a female tech. And so there's a lot of just, cognitive biases that you have to kind of break through. I have to learn more, I have to train more, and I have to explain more. And I usually get quite tested if I show up and they're like, well, do you know about this? So they constantly test my knowledge and that sort of thing. And where I don't think that they would do that with a male. So, but I have made a niche to where I strongly want to teach, and that's one of the things that I do most now. I teach women who are solo travelers, either by circumstances, either they were married and now they're widowed, and their significant other or partner is either incapable or used to take care of these things, and now they have to or give up the lifestyle. And so I think the best way for you to feel confident in traveling alone, which I've traveled alone for almost 5 years now, is not to pretend to put like men's boots outside of your camper and 2 chairs and all this smoke screen stuff is to know your rig and to know how to take care of your rig because the conversation changes if you call somebody and say, "I don't know why my refrigerator is not getting cold, my beer is just hot," you know? Or if you say, "I have 13.6 on my battery, I've checked this, this, and this." Well, the conversation has changed drastically because you've done the steps.
So let me ask you then, what are some of the most common issues you see RVers face?
They get sold the dream, and that's the job that the dealerships are to have to do. They sell you the dream. This is the picture window that you're gonna drink your coffee in front of and look at the lake and all the wonderful things they say, but they don't tell you that you have to haul your keister up on the roof and clean your RV, you know, or clean your roof or clean your AC or they don't tell you about the maintenance required in it. And then a lot of people come from obviously a house mentality, and this is not a house, and they want it to function like a house, and so they wanna go in and flip on a light, and then they don't realize that they're, killing their batteries and that sort of thing. So, setting the right type of expectations, and then what your responsibility is as an RV owner, what your maintenance is as an RV owner, and because some of these mistakes are very costly. If you don't clean an AC, it'll bust, and then that's a $1,500 mistake. Like, trying to do that, plus also giving them the knowledge of how it works. Now, if I tell you and I teach you how to clean your AC and you say, "Great, but I was not born Spider-Man, and so I'm never getting up on that roof." That's fine, but you now know what it's supposed to be done, how it's supposed to be done, the time that it should take to do it so that you can't get taken advantage of. Now, you can choose to have somebody else do it, but you still have the knowledge.
What is one thing every RVer should be doing for regular maintenance, but that they often overlook?
Cleaning the AC is one thing, and it's really dependent. Like, say, for instance, in the Pacific Northwest, water intrusion is gonna be your biggest thing. So, going up and checking your seals, making sure that you don't have any bad sealants. If you're, like, in a salty environment, like maybe down in the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf, the Gulf of whatever now, that salt air, that sea air will corrode things, so all of the orifices that the propane comes out will get corroded, so cleaning those out, like, of the refrigerator, the heater, the furnace, all that stuff. So, maintenance is geographical as well. If you're around a lot of cottonwood trees, you're gonna need to clean your AC every 3 months, not 6 months, because it's gonna get completely clogged up. If you have pets inside that shed, you're gonna have to clean your furnace a lot more regularly than you would if you have no pets inside. These are all conditional, and they're not taught to do any maintenance, even on batteries. They're not taught to do maintenance. Like, they'll let their batteries go dry, not knowing that they're supposed to fill them with distilled water. Something that's very simple to the most complicated. They're not taught when they buy the RV.
Well, you had mentioned like for Pacific Northwest specific maintenance challenges that every P&W RVer should go up on their roof and do an inspection. Can you just high level quick overview what are some of the top things? You'd mentioned sealants, but like what should they be looking for specifically if they're up there looking at the sealants? Is it hard? Is it cracked? And that's kind of an indicator that you need to do, or what are some things they should be looking for?
So when you go up there, the sealants are actually kind of like a gum material. It kind of feels like gum and it's always going to be pliable. That's because your RV shifts and it kind of needs to move and go back and forth like that. So on the joints and the seams. But if it gets to the point where it's brittle looking, if there's cracks in it, if you see big holes in it, and you will see like a good source of water intrusion because it's going to be darker in that area. A lifting of the sealant, that's the whole area is going to have a lot of sediment right there. Just going around everything, looking at everything. Everything should be kind of flat, look like flat melted icing. And if it doesn't, if it has holes in it, if it has cracks in it or anything, that's a place for water intrusion to go into. You're really double checking that. So you really need to have a visual of what a good sealant is, and then also look at yours and see if it compares to that. You can put sealant over sealant, and I usually do that twice, and that's it. Other than that, you have to scrape it off and get down to the materials. Also, you want to look and see if the material, which is either EDPM or TPO, or if you have a fiberglass roof, that's a different one. But the membrane that's on top of your roof, if you've like hit a tree branch or anything like that, that might snagged it, it's caused a hole, it's ripped, anything of that sorts. The membrane itself will start to deteriorate and you'll get white chalky stuff on your knees, hands, whatever. It'll start running down the sides of your RV. Then that's an indicator that you either need to either recoat, you can try to recoat and get an extra maybe 3 years out of that roof, or you have to redo the roof.
Okay. So I'm just now going to ask you for a few tips and takeaways. So let's briefly cover what tools should an average RVer who is not an inspector and RV tech, what would you suggest they take on the road and have with them at all times?
Basic maintenance stuff, but the main thing is going to be a multimeter. You can find those very inexpensively at Walmart, Harbor Freight. Knowing the electricity and where it's supposed to be is a huge, huge thing for an RVer because we're always chasing more power because we have limited power in an RV. So knowing how to read your battery, knowing how to read what your battery is supposed to be, what it has, how it is operating on a load. So if you turn on a light, how it drops, that sort of thing. Just knowing that, that's going to be a big, big thing because most all of your issues that you run into is generally a power issue, of some sorts. And so if you know how to follow the power, you know where the break in the power is, and you know where the problem is. The second thing will be just your basic maintenance tools like, a can of air, to blow out and to clean out the orifices for like your refrigerator and that sort of thing. Those type of main things, a drill,
Yeah. And screwdrivers and.
sort of thing. Yeah, you can have the bare minimum, but just basic things that you would need to clean this out. And then the right type of sealants. If you're going to get up on your roof, have the right type of sealants, the right type of tape, all that stuff. So
Okay.
I use Dicor self-leveling lap sealant is what goes up on there, or a Turnabond tape.
Got it. Are there any small upgrades or kind of hacks that you recommend to people to kind of make their RV life easier or safer?
Well, generally the people who want an upgrade are wanting solar. Just it really depends on how you RV. If you want to boondock a lot, meaning that you do not want to be hooked up to a grid or power, solar is going to be your biggest upgrade. That's kind of a wormhole in itself because you can put solar on your roof, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get enough power to operate your RV. It's just an assist. The more solar that you put, the bigger bank of batteries that you have, then you're getting into possibly operating your RV completely and totally as a standalone off-grid thing. So if you see the big, big panels that you guys have at a 45-degree angle, it takes a lot to do a very minimal thing when it comes to solar. So that's kind of its own rabbit hole to go down. But a lot of people use that even, like a Jackery or some sort of a portable battery bank that you can utilize. And then, they call briefcase solar panels that you can pop out. Those are very easy to travel with. So things of that nature, I would say really the appliances and stuff, you can upgrade if you wanted to, but they're very costly. And so that would be kind of on a necessary basis out of necessity. And with one goes out, then if that's something that you were looking to do in the future, eyeball what you need, figure out what you need, what's going to work for you. And then once that appliance has run its life's course, which is about 10 years ish, then that's when you can start to upgrade an appliance. One of the biggest things that people do is they take out the conventional refrigerator or they change out the conventional refrigerator for a 12-volt only refrigerator. So that's one of the things that a lot of people do because they don't want to run the refrigerator on propane.
Got it. As we begin to kind of wrap up our conversation, I'm really curious, Carrie, what kind of keeps you passionate about the RV lifestyle these days?
Well, I love helping people and I love travel. And there's so many questions that I haven't got to answer for people. So I just keep traveling. I want to see more. It's my desire to see more things, to see different states that I haven't been to. I'm actually trying to look for home. I'm trying to figure out where home is for me.
Got it. Okay. Well, what's next for you? Kind of, any projects or travels or big goals you're excited about? What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I will be traveling to Arizona this winter. I will be going to Quartzsite. I'm actually one of the main speakers for the WRTR, which is the Women's Rubber Tramp Rendezvous. And so I will be speaking there. I'm actually just developed a course, an RV, like a workshop, that's going to be hands on. I'm going to be teaching out there as well. And then I have several other rallies that I will be presenting and teaching and speaking at. So that's something that I'm very excited to do. I do have a membership site that I've built and developed that will teach you about RVs. And then subsequently, we're working on a maintenance app that will give you reminders and tell you what you need to do. And you will be able to plug in receipts and that sort of thing to help you keep track of your maintenance.
What's the name of the app?
It's called My Pocket Tech.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then where can listeners kind of connect with you and learn more about your work, as an RV tech? Where can they follow along on your adventures, learn more about this app you're developing?
At gstrv.com.
Okay. And my final question ties into your Irish blood. You ready? Okay, you ready? It's a really important question because I don't know the answer to this.
Okay.
If I drink more than one Guinness, am I having Guinea?
I think if you get the 5 in that, like, Ganai green, and you'll get Ganai green instead of
Okay.
getting.
Okay, so Guinea, if I'm saying what did you do last night? I had Guinea. People know I had more than one Guinness. I just I'm just curious about that. I've always been curious. I didn't know what the full Irish take was on that one.
I have
So,
no.
well, Carrie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us here on RV Out West. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I really appreciate it. So, thank you so much.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to RV Out West. If you're enjoying the show, I'd love for you to take a moment to leave a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts or with whatever app you use to listen to the show. If you've already done so, I sincerely thank you for that. Your feedback helps more RVers discover the podcast and keeps our conversation rolling down the road. Also, feel free to give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook where you can join in on the conversation. Next week's guest lives a life on the road with the fly rod in one hand and a cowboy hat in the other. He uses his RV to chase down hidden fly fishing honey holes and rodeo arenas across the West. Tune in. You just may hear about a few secret fishing spots right here in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for listening to RV Out West. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed the show, tell a friend and please leave a rating or a review. It would mean a lot. Special thanks to Scott Home Music for our intro song, We Are One. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to join in on the conversation. Now, get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.